I live in Karachi, Pakistan, but have since made it out of the country and now live in the UK. My apartment was close to the police investigation department, or the Pakistani FBI building, which I was pretty uninformed about. I always thought it was just an ordinary government building, until the 11th of November in 2010. On that day, at around evening time, I was coming home from work. I thought I better hit the gym. They had a sauna there and it sounded like an amazing unwind. The gym was half a mile away, so I decided to walk. I quickly changed clothes and left for the gym. After walking for a few minutes, and only for a split second, I feel the ground shaking, immediately halted by the loudest bang I've ever heard in my life. I felt a dense pressure in my chest. I could feel blood coming out of my ears. The load on my chest was so great, it felt as if I'd been hit with a boulder. I find myself laying on the ground, covering my ears, the pain shooting up to my head as I cry out in agony. I peer up, covered in dirt and dust, to see all the car alarms going off. I couldn't hear them. A ringing noise from my eardrums bursting is drowning out any would-be sounds. I remember thinking how this was the end, how I'd die in the dusty street, never living to be old. I gathered myself and fought against my own longing to lay there and give up amongst the agony. Anything made of glass had been shattered. The peppery smell of gunpowder ignited in the air lingered. Dust began falling from the sky. It was as if we were being showered from a tropical storm. Rocks and debris began landing close to me, and I crawled under a large side of a building that had been toppled. A chunk of wall landed next to me. My eyes locked onto it as it embedded itself in the tattered soil beside me. The blackened chunk of concrete lay blood-soaked. Some skin and flesh were dripping off the top. Another rock ricocheted off a nearby rubble pile and stuck to my arm. It had veins still oozing with fluid affixed on the end of it. I'm still dazed at this point, not understanding what was happening. I brushed myself off, got up, and covered my ears, trying to bear the pain. As I move closer to an opening in the street, I start to regain my hearing in one ear. I hear crowds of people, seemingly hundreds of voices, crying and screaming in despair. Cars are on fire. Dozens of dead bodies fill the ground. I start putting things together and realize that it was a bomb blast at this point. As I moved in closer, I could spot a massive crater, the bottom filled with water, and the structure that was previously the government building is no longer there. There are hundreds of people scattered around, lying on the ground, crying, begging for someone to help them. Most have missing arms and legs, but some people were left with only their waists up. A woman is holding what appeared to be her spouse's severed leg. The rest of his body, a puddle of meat on the ground melted against a slice of rubble. Several survivors were walking around with no hands. An older man had some of his head missing, and he was talking uncontrollably to no one in particular. The most traumatic sight was when I found an opening to leave the mountains of rubble that surrounded me. It was a young man, maybe early 20s. He lay dead, his torso flat on the ground, but his head was twisted all the way around. As I looked over at him, his face was positioned exactly toward the angle I was looking from. He was looking straight into my eyes. I tried to avert my eyes down, shivering even in the heat of the moment at the sight. But instead, I just discovered his feet were facing the wrong way as well. The police and media arrived. It got crowded with ambulances and rescue teams after that. Sometimes I wake up screaming throughout the night and can still see the man standing at the doorway, staring at me, just to blink for him to disappear.